The service corridors of Nexus Station were always cold. Eli Davies finished his maintenance shift with aching hands and a sore back after 14 hours of repairing oxygen filtration systems. All he wanted was his bunk and silence. The station hummed with its usual mechanical heartbeat as he trudged along the dim passage, tool belt heavy on his hips. A soft rustling sound stopped him. There, tucked into an alcove where two corridors met, huddled a figure beneath a tattered thermal blanket. Only a glimpse of purple skin and frightened eyes peered out. "Station security doesn't look kindly on stowaways," Eli said, voice low. His flashlight revealed a young woman, her purple skin shimmering slightly even in the weak light. Her eyes were wide, irises a striking amber against the violet of her face. "Please," she whispered, her voice musical despite her fear. "I have nowhere else." Eli sighed, glancing both ways down the corridor. His conscience wouldn't let him call security. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she replied, pulling the blanket tighter. "I escaped. The transport ship. They were taking us to the labor colonies." Eli had heard about those ships. Smugglers capturing off-worlders from vulnerable planets, selling them as workers. "How long have you been here?" "3 cycles," she said, a slight tremor in her voice. "I have only this." She gestured at the torn blanket. Something in her eyes reminded Eli of himself years ago. After the mining colony disaster that had left him alone in the universe, he made a decision that would change everything. "Come with me," he said, quickly and quietly. They moved through the station's maintenance tunnels, avoiding security cameras. Lyra followed him silently, her bare feet barely making a sound on the metal floor. When they reached his quarters in the technician's sector, Eli keyed in his code and ushered her inside. His room was small, but private a luxury for maintenance workers. A single bed, a small kitchen unit, a tiny bathroom, and a desk with a terminal. Nothing fancy, but it was his. "You can stay here tonight," Eli said, retrieving a clean shirt and pants from his storage unit. "Bathroom's there if you want to clean up." Lyra stood motionless in the center of the room, still clutching her blanket. "Why help me?" she asked, suspicious yet hopeful. Eli shrugged. "Because no one helped me when I needed it." While Lyra cleaned up, Eli prepared a simple meal of synthetic protein and reconstituted vegetables. When she emerged, her purple skin gleamed and her long dark hair fell in damp waves. The station-issue clothes hung loose on her slender frame. "Thank you," she said, sitting cautiously on the edge of the bed. "I haven't felt warm in days," as they ate in silence. Eli noticed the graceful way she moved, how her fingers, all 5 of them, just like a human, scrolled around the spoon. Despite her alien features, there was something deeply familiar about her expressions, her gestures. "Tomorrow we'll figure something out," he said. "You can't stay hidden forever on a station this size." Lyra nodded, then hesitated. "Where will you sleep?" "The floor's fine for me," Eli replied, already pulling out an emergency blanket. "I've slept in worse places." As Lyra settled onto his bed, Eli made his place on the floor. In the darkness, he heard her soft voice. "On my world, we believe that when 2 strangers meet in difficult circumstances, it's not by chance. The stars align to bring souls together for a purpose." Eli smiled in the darkness. "Get some rest, Lyra. Tomorrow comes early on Nexus Station." Morning arrived with the artificial lighting gradually brightening in Eli's quarters. Lyra woke first, her amber eyes adjusting to the simulated dawn. She watched Eli sleeping on the floor, his face relaxed in slumber, so different from the guarded expression he wore awake. Eli stirred, immediately alert. Years of working in dangerous environments had trained him to wake fully in seconds. He found Lyra sitting on the edge of the bed, watching him. "You didn't run," he observed, sitting up. A small smile curved her purple lips. "Where would I go?" Eli rose and moved to the kitchenette, preparing 2 portions of synthetic coffee. "We need to talk about what happens next. You can't stay hidden forever." Lyra accepted the steaming cup, wrapping her fingers around it for warmth. "On my planet Elysium, I was a healer. I worked with botanical medicines. Perhaps I could be useful here?" "The station's medical bay is automated," Eli said. but the hydroponics section might need someone with plant knowledge. He accessed his terminal, searching through station job postings. There's an opening in hydroponics section 7. They need someone to monitor the medicinal plant cultivation. He glanced at her. But you'd need documentation. Lyra's face fell. I have nothing. Eli considered his options. He knew people in document forgery from his darker days after the mining disaster. I might know someone who can help. It'll cost, though. I have nothing to offer, Lyra said softly. I have credits saved, Eli replied. Consider it an investment in your future. Later that day, Eli returned to his quarters with food and a small package. Lyra had cleaned his living space, organized his tools, and somehow made the sterile room feel more like a home. I brought something, he said. Handing her the package, inside was a simple outfit: practical pants, a tunic, and boots. These should fit better than mine, he explained. Lyra touched the fabric reverently. Thank you. She disappeared into the bathroom and emerged transformed. The clothes fit her slender frame perfectly, highlighting the elegant curves of her body. I've contacted someone about documentation, Eli said, trying not to stare. Should take a few days. That night, despite Lyra's protests, Eli again slept on the floor. They talked long into the night cycle, sharing stories of their worlds. Eli told her about Earth, about oceans and mountains. Lyra described Elysium's twin moons and purple forests. Why did you become a technician? Lyra asked. Eli was quiet for a moment. After the mining colony where my family worked collapsed, I needed skills that would keep me moving. Something necessary everywhere. You lost everyone? Her voice was gentle. Everyone, he confirmed. I was off Kalani training on a transport ship. In the darkness, he felt her hand reach down from the bed, finding his. Her touch was warm, comforting. They stayed like that, connected in the dark, until sleep found them both. Days passed, falling into a rhythm. Eli would leave for his shift, and Lyra would remain in his quarters, studying station protocols and systems on his terminal, preparing for when she could move freely. One evening, Eli returned with a small data chip. Your new identity, he said. According to this, you're Lyra Voss, a botanical specialist from the outer colonies. Your documentation shows you were hired remotely. Lyra's eyes widened. Will it work? My contact's the best, Eli assured her. You start in hydroponics tomorrow. That night, as they shared a meal, their hands brushed while reaching for the salt. Something electric passed between them. Current neither acknowledged, but both felt deeply. I can find my own quarters now, Lyra offered, though her eyes said something different. Eli shook his head. Stay, at least until you're settled in your job. As they prepared for sleep, Lyra stopped him from making his bed on the floor. I can't keep taking your bed. I'm fine, he began. No, she interrupted. Share with me. The bed is large enough. Eli hesitated, then nodded. They lay side by side, careful not to touch, though each was acutely aware of the other's presence. The gentle rhythm of their breathing filling the small room with unspoken possibilities. Lyra's first week in hydroponics went smoothly. Her knowledge of plants impressed her supervisors, and the fake documentation held under scrutiny. Each evening, she returned to Eli's quarters, their shared space becoming more like a home with each passing day. They continued to share the bed, maintaining a careful distance that grew smaller each night, until one morning Eli woke to find Lyra's head resting on his chest, her purple skin glowing softly in the dim light. He didn't move, savoring the warmth of her against him. The scent of her hair, reminiscent of the exotic flowers she worked with. When her eyes fluttered open, she didn't pull away. I'm sorry, she whispered, not sounding sorry at all. Don't be, Eli replied, his voice rough with sleep and emotion. Their first kiss was tentative, a gentle exploration that quickly deepened into something hungry and needful. Her skin was warm silk beneath his fingertips, her hands mapping the contours of his body with equal curiosity. I've wanted this, she confessed between kisses. Since that first night, so have I, Eli admitted. They were late for their shifts that morning, but while their private world blossomed, Trouble brewed in the wider station. Security Chief Nadia Volkov had noticed discrepancies in the new hydroponics workers' documentation, minor inconsistencies in colony records. Medical history gaps, but enough to raise suspicion. There's something off about the new botanist. Volkov told her deputy. Run a deeper check on Lyra Voss. Eli heard whispers in the maintenance tunnels. Extra security scans on the residential level. Random documentation checks in the common areas. He knew it was only a matter of time. After his shift, he hurried to hydroponics section 7, finding Lyra tending to a row of medicinal plants. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, her focus complete until she sensed his presence. Eli, what's wrong? She asked, reading the tension in his face. Security's running enhanced checks, he said quietly. I think they suspect something. Fear flashed across her features. What do we do? Be careful. Come straight back to quarters after your shift. Don't talk to anyone you don't have to. That evening, they discussed options in hushed tones. If they discover I'm undocumented, what happens? Lyra asked. Deportation, most likely. Back to whatever system they think you're from, Eli said. Or detention until they can verify your identity. Lyra's hands trembled. They'll find the smuggler's mark on me. I'll be sent to the labor colonies. Eli took her hands in his. I won't let that happen. The next morning, Eli was approached by Jin, a fellow technician. Your new roommate's got security interested, Jin warned. Volkov was asking about her, and about you. Thanks for the heads up, Eli replied, keeping his expression neutral. He messaged Lyra immediately. Be careful. Security asking questions. Her reply came quickly. 2 officers in hydroponics now. Checking everyone's IDs, Eli's heart raced. He needed a plan. The station had escape pods, but they were monitored. There were supply ships, but security was tight. Perhaps they could, his communicator buzzed with a station-wide announcement. Attention all personnel. Security lockdown in progress. Remain at your current locations until further notice. Eli's blood ran cold. He tried messaging Lyra again, but the system returned an error. Communications were being restricted. Breaking protocol. He abandoned his post and headed toward hydroponics, taking the maintenance tunnels to avoid security checkpoints. As he approached Section 7, he heard raised voices through the transparent walls. He saw Lyra surrounded by security officers, Chief Volkov among them. Lyra's face was composed, but Eli could see the fear in her amber eyes. Lyra Voss, Volkov was saying, or whatever your real name is. You're being detained for falsifying documentation and illegal presence on Nexus Station. As they led Lyra away, her eyes met Eli's through the glass. A silent message passed between them, part plea, part promise. Eli shrank back into the shadows of the maintenance tunnel. He wouldn't let them take her. Somehow, he would find a way to save her. Even if it meant risking everything he had built on Nexus Station, because in the short time they had known each other, Lyra had become more important to him than safety, than stability, than the careful life he had constructed from the ashes of his past. Eli paced his quarters like a caged animal, mind racing through possibilities. After witnessing Lyra's arrest, he'd retreated to formulate a plan. His terminal displayed the station's security, protocols knowledge from years of maintenance work, giving him insights few others. Possessed, detained aliens were held in the security wing's isolation cells for 72 hours before processing. That gave him 3 days to act. He contacted Jin, the only person he somewhat trusted. I need access to security feeds. Jin's face on the screen looked concerned. You're risking everything for this woman. Is she worth it? Eli didn't hesitate. Yes. Hours later, Jin delivered a security bypass chip. This gets you into the auxiliary systems. Don't get Kotai was never involved. Eli spent the night studying the detention center layout. By morning, he had his plan. Meanwhile, Lyra sat in her cell, a simple room with transparent walls that offered no privacy. They'd taken blood samples, scanned her, questioned her for hours. Chief Volkov had been relentless. The smuggler's mark on your shoulder tells me everything. Volkov had said. "You're contraband, and contraband gets returned to sender." Now Lyra waited, knowing that return to sender meant the labor colonies. She closed her eyes, thinking of Eli, of the brief happiness she'd found in his arms. At least she'd experienced that before the end. The cell door slid open. A maintenance worker entered, face obscured by a breathing mask. Tool belt hanging from his waist. "Environmental check," the worker mumbled. Moving to an access panel when he turned slightly, Lyra saw familiar eyes above the mask. Her heart leaped, but she kept her expression neutral. Aware of the surveillance, Eli worked on the panel, speaking without looking at her. "Tonight, third shift. Power fluctuation will disable locks for 45 seconds. Be ready." He finished his work and left without another glance. That night, as promised, the lights flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the detention center in red. Lyra's cell door slid open. She slipped out, finding Eli waiting in maintenance coveralls with a second set in his hands. "Put these on," he whispered. Quick, disguised as workers, they moved through the corridors, Eli leading them through service tunnels few knew existed. At one junction, he stopped, entering a code into a hidden panel. A section of wall slid back, revealing a narrow passage. "Old access tunnel from the station's original construction," he explained. "Not on current maps." The tunnel led to the cargo bay where a supply transport was being loaded. Eli handed Lyra a data chip. "New identity. The ship's manifest shows you as crew." "What about you?" Lyra asked, gripping his arm. "I'll follow on the next transport." 3 days behind you." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "You're risking everything for me." Eli pulled her close, their bodies fitting together perfectly. "You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever," he whispered against her hair. "Hope." Their kiss was desperate, filled with fear and longing. When they parted, Eli pressed something into her hand, a small communicator. "This is untraceable. I'll contact you when I'm clear." Lyra boarded the transport, heart heavy despite her freedom. As the ship undocked, she watched Nexus Station grow smaller through a viewport, wondering if she'd ever see Eli again. 3 days later, as promised, Eli boarded a different transport. But as he settled into his quarters, the ship's security system pinged. His fake credentials had triggered an alert. Before he could react, officers surrounded him. Chief Volkov stepped forward, eyes cold. "Eli Davies, you're under arrest for aiding the escape of a detained alien and falsifying transport documents." As they led him away, Eli's only thought was of Lyra. At least she was safe. For him, that was enough. The labor colony on Sirius Minor was brutal, but survivable. Eli worked the ore processors, muscles aching, lungs burning from the mineral dust. 6 months into his 5-year sentence, he still had no regrets. Each night he collapsed onto his narrow bunk, holding onto the memory of purple skin and amber eyes. Lyra had made it to Avalon Station, according to the single encrypted message he'd received. She was safe, working in a botanical research facility. She hadn't forgotten him. One evening, as Eli returned to the barracks, a guard approached. "Report to administration." The prison administrator, a stern woman named Keller, waited in her office. "You have a visitor," she said, eyebrow raised in surprise. "First one since you arrived." "Visitor." Eli's mind raced. No one knew he was here except the door opened and a slender woman entered. Her skin was no longer purple but a human tan, her eyes brown instead of amber. But Eli would recognize her anywhere. "Hello," Lyra said calmly. "I'm Dr. Mira Lin, representing the Interstellar Botanical Research Consortium. I'm here about the prisoner transfer." Administrator Keller looked confused. "I've received no transfer orders." Lyra placed a data pad on the desk. Perhaps this wasn't processed correctly. "The consortium has requested this prisoner for a specialized agricultural project. His background in environmental systems makes him uniquely qualified." While Keller reviewed the documents, Lyra's eyes met Eli's, a silent message passing between them. "Trust me." "These appear to be in order," Keller finally said, though suspicion lingered in her voice. "Though I'll need to verify with Central Command." "Of course," Lyra replied smoothly. While you do, may I speak with the prisoner about the project parameters? Left alone in a small conference room, Eli finally broke the silence. You changed your appearance. Genetic modifier, Lyra explained. Temporary. It helps me move freely. She reached across the table, taking his rough hands in hers. I couldn't leave you here. The transfer won't work, Eli said softly. They'll check and find it's false. Lyra smiled, her familiar smile despite the unfamiliar face. That's why we're not waiting for verification. The transport ship that brought me has been refueled and is leaving in 30 minutes. We'll be on it. I have friends now. People who understand what it's like to be hunted for being different. She squeezed his hands. The pilot will create a distraction. We need to be ready. As if on cue, alarms blared. Emergency lights flashed. Over the comm system, a voice announced, Warning. Environmental breach in sectors 3 and 4. All personnel report to emergency stations. In the confusion, Lyra pulled Eli through the administrative section toward the landing bay. Guards ran past, focused on the supposed breach. Here, Lyra said, pressing a security badge into his palm. This will get us through the final checkpoint. The transport ship waited, engines already warming. The pilot, a grizzled man with cybernetic implants, nodded as they boarded. Cut it close, he growled. Strap in. This won't be smooth. As the ship broke atmosphere, colony security finally realized the deception. Pursuit vessels launched, but the transport was already jumping to hyperspace, disappearing in a flash of light. Safe in their cabin, Eli pulled Lyra close. You could have been caught. Sent back to the labor colonies yourself. Lyra's modified appearance was already fading. Hints of purple returning to her skin. Some risks are worth taking, she said, tracing the lines of his face with her fingers. You taught me that. Where do we go now? Eli asked. We'll be fugitives. The outer rim, beyond Confederation space. There's a settlement of refugees and outcasts on a terraformed moon called Haven. No extradition. No questions about the past. Eli thought about it, a new life, far from everything familiar. Will there be plants for you to heal with? Systems for me to maintain? Lyra smiled. A new colony always needs both healers and builders. As the ship hurtled through hyperspace, they lay together in the narrow bunk, planning their future. They had lost their old worlds, but found a new one in each other. 3 weeks later, they stepped onto the surface of Haven. The settlement was small, but growing. A collection of prefabricated structures and terraformed gardens nestled in a valley between purple-hued mountains. The air was clean, carrying the scent of unfamiliar blossoms. The settlement leader, a tall woman with intricate facial markings, welcomed them. We don't ask about the past here, she said. Only what skills you bring to our future. That night, in their small but private quarters, Eli and Lyra stood by the window, watching Haven's 3 moons rise over the mountains. Do you regret it? Lyra asked softly. Everything you lost because of me? Eli turned to her, taking in her fully restored purple skin, her amber eyes bright in the moonlight. He thought of Nexus Station, of a solitary existence before a purple-skinned woman with nothing but a torn blanket had changed everything. I lost nothing that matters, he said, drawing her close, and found everything I never knew I needed. Lyra's arms encircled him, her body fitting perfectly against his. On Elysium, we have a saying, the stars don't guide our paths. They guide our hearts to where they belong. Eli smiled, thinking how far they had traveled across space, through danger, against all odds to find this moment, this place. Then our hearts were always meant to find Haven. No, Lyra corrected gently, resting her head against his chest. Haven is just a place. You are my home. Outside, the settlement quieted for the night. Inside, 2 people from different worlds held each other close, finally at peace. Finally, where they belong together.